Hi, welcome back for day 29 of the Wonder Wife Workshop. I'm Nikki Friedman, and I want to speak with you today about the importance of a husband and wife being on the same page when it comes to raising their children. So, I wanted to start with just a little story that Dr. Meir Wickler describes in his book, 10 Minutes to a Better Marriage, 10 Minutes a Day to a Better Marriage. So, he starts with the story of his own clients. And he had a couple who was having difficulty in their marriage coming and seeing him for therapy. And he asked them, is this a new issue that you've been having, or have the two of you not been getting along for a while? And the response was, no, we've been having a hard time for a while, but we've just been resistant to come in for various reasons. So he asked them, what changed? And the response was as follows. They said, we have a daughter who is our youngest, who's now a teenager. And she just got her license. And now that she can drive, she's been out of the house a lot. She's been going away for Shabbos, going to see her friends. And recently, when we asked her if she'd be home for Shabbos, her response was, yes, I'll be home, unfortunately. So when the father asked her, what do you mean by that comment, unfortunately? She responded by saying, I really don't like being home anymore. You and mom are arguing all the time, and I just don't want to be around it. So that was what tipped the scale for them to finally realize that they needed help. So I'm bringing this story up in the beginning of this conversation to show you how damaging it is to our children when we argue in front of them. In fact, in the Torah, there's a whole chapter in the book of Devarim, in Deuteronomy, where it talks about the idea of the rebellious son. And it goes through all of the things that we're supposed to do when a child is being rebellious. So there's many commentaries on this idea in the Torah. But one commentary, Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, goes as far as to say that when a child is being rebellious, if the parents have not been on the same page as one another to harmoniously work together hand in hand in raising that child, in other words, if they've been disagreeing with one another, if they've been having conflict between them, then that child cannot be blamed for going, off the path or for whatever issues they have. It's the parents who can be blamed. Once again, this is like common sense to us, right? But it's the beauty also in our Torah and in our Jewish tradition and our commentaries that this is brought forward for us as well. So you may argue, isn't it important for parents to disagree with one another in front of their children? I mean, we can't shelter them and shield them forever from reality, right? There's no marriages that are perfect with no conflict. And if our children never see that from their parents, well then, aren't they going to be in a state of shock when they come to their own marriage and their own disagreements, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, something is very wrong here, without having like the coping skills on how to deal with that. So on the one hand, yes, that is true. There is no perfect marriage. And yes, we do need to prepare our children with appropriate coping techniques for conflict resolution. And that's exactly it. Appropriate conflict resolution techniques. So if a husband and wife are arguing with one another in a respectful way, where they can respectfully say, you know what, this is your opinion, this is my opinion. Maybe we have a difference of opinion. We can respect that about one another. Or let's work together to come up with a solution that works for both of us. And they can do that in a dignified way, in a unified way, in a way that creates a sense of we-ness, like we've been discussing in our previous classes. That is a beautiful example to have in front of your children so that they can learn from that as a positive role model for their own marriages to come. But if a husband and wife are losing their temper, are getting angry at one another, are, God forbid, calling names to one another, or speaking to one another in a way that is demeaning on any level, it has to be done in private. Actually, it shouldn't be done at all. But if it were to be done, it needs to be done in private, not in front of the children, because it is crippling to them on so many levels. So we're going to leave it at that for today. And in the upcoming class, we're going to talk a little bit more about that so that we can understand better the type of impact that our marriages have on our children, so that when we bring that into our awareness, we're that much more motivated to treat each other in a positive, respectful way and to take the appropriate steps. And if you are thinking to yourself, my children are grown already and they're out of the house, all the more so if this applies to you, let me tell you. Because some parents think that just because their children are grown, they can now make their children into their therapists and they can tell them everything about what's going on with their spouse. And it is a big, big no-no and is just as damaging as dealing with little children. So to be continued. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.